Hi, I uploaded a video tutorial showing simple animation using a geometry switch for sort of vacuole blebbing, but I didn't have my microphone working properly. So I'm just going to play through this tutorial now and just speak over it. So what we want to try and achieve is something like this, right? And rather than using dynamics or something, which can also be done, and I'll explain in another tutorial, if you want just control over one sort of thing, blebbing. Now this doesn't take into account if you need things stuck to the surface, and that's sort of a different issue, but we can start with one thing at a time. So I'm just going to zoom through this. So here's the scene in Maya, and you can see that it's just one piece of geometry here, and it's a big circular piece that's polar in the middle. And the reason that this was made like this was so it would be easy to make this shape by revolving a curve around. So you can see the curve there. And so what happens is you start with a piece of geometry that takes on the shape like this, and then when it's supposed to pinch off at the neck here, you swap that out with a new piece of geometry like this vesicle, and then another big round plane that matches the shape of the other one. So here's the idea here, making a curve in the shape of the about to break off blebbing vacuole from the membrane, and the replacement vacuole that's going to be here I have just as a guide for how big and the shape of the unbroken bleb is. So we want to trick our audience into thinking it's a continuous action when really it's separated into two different pieces of geometry. So I'll just go through this quickly. So here is taking this curve and revolving it around the y-axis, outputting as a polygon using control points. So we get something like this, and if we smooth it by hitting 3 on the keyboard, then it will match the shape. Well, it'll match close enough that it doesn't matter. And because history is still turned on, you can go in and change the shape of the curve, and it will update this surface that was generated from it. So this is an important thing to remember. This surface that's made by revolving that curve around, you have to keep the history turned on for that thing, because we're going to animate the shape of the curve using the shape editor. So we're animating the curve shape rather than the geometry shape. And the geometry, because the construction history is turned on, will follow changes to the shape of the curve. So I'm making a blend shape, adding a target for the curve, and then simply adjusting the shape of the curve. Now this is a little tedious, this part, but just grabbing the control vertices of the curve, not the geometry. You can see here, dragging it out. So to change the shape, I'm just going to zoom through this, moving them over. So you can kind of see what's happening here, and then the ones at the top we eventually want to move down to the level of the plane so we get a flat surface like this. And so here I am just moving the vertices around. I'm using snap to grid, holding down X, but just using the y-axis, so it doesn't snap to the grid point, but just snaps in line with one of the grid lines in the y-axis. Okay, you can zoom through this. So just to be sure, if I just go back here, you can see when I created the blend shape target, edit is still turned on. So I'm changing the shape it will be when I change it to 1 in the target weight here. And so once that's done, now you can see if I turn off edit, I can scrub back and forth between these shapes. Now you'll notice that it pulls in the shape of the the resulting geometry from the revolve. It'd probably be better that I made the geometry a little bit bigger, so this original curve was extended a little farther out, just so it doesn't pull in so much. Because that way, I've got more background that I can render out. Here I'm trying to fix it after the fact, and you actually run into some problems when you do this. So try and plan ahead a little bit. I solved the problem by making the light fall off a little more quickly, so we don't really see the back end, but it's not a perfect solution, so I would plan it a little bit differently. So then you have to duplicate this revolved surface and then delete this top little vacuole thing. And I made actually a mistake here. I deleted it twice. I wasn't thinking. I deleted it on the original, so I realized this later on. And so on the duplicate, you just want to seal up this hole where you deleted that stuff. So I just extruded out these inner edges and then grabbed these vertices in the middle and went to Edit Mesh Merge. And then I had to up the threshold distance so they pop together. So then here's me thinking, oh, where's the vacuole? Okay, so, and I also had to change some of my defaults because I had to reinstall Maya. So here it's me doing that. I'm thinking, ugh, why did I delete that? Undo, 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 undo. Back to the same thing again. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now I'm just animating the blend shape on the curve to go from flat to forming the vesicle. This is as if we're sort of inside the cell, of course, kind of upside down world. And so here's the other thing you have to animate. So in addition to animating the blend shape target, you actually have to animate the visibility of this. So on frame 30 it's on, and then on frame 31 you animate it being off and setting a key. So over 2 frames it goes from one state to the other. And then you reverse that for the replacement surface here, right? You get it. It's not hard. So here I am demonstrating vigorously that it works. Now we have to get that replacement sphere that is going to stand in for this thing once it's pinched off, and do the same thing. Animate the visibility from off to on, right over those same 2 frames. And we get a little 2-frame switch. So blend shape and a 2-frame switch can do this now. We can animate this sphere taking off. Here I am changing to real time. Right, then adding some keyframes, moving that up. And it pops into selected mode because I had it selected before I started the animation. So of course it kind of destroys the illusion slightly. Can't select my curve for some reason. What's going on? Hey, I don't understand. Okay, select it there. There. So I mean that's convincing-ish. Just changing the timeline. Watching it seemingly forever. Probably talking about something here. So doing a little render so you can see putting the same shader on both of these things, or all 3 of these things I should say. Now it works best if you have a procedural shader and you don't have to rely on any painted UVs or anything because it would be difficult to make those match up. And then here I'm just putting a little bit of a sine wave deformer on the resulting vacuole so I can make it kind of warble as it moves off, right? Anyway, so a complete non-dynamic solution for doing something like this time with audio. And here I am working with the lights to hide the back edge because I didn't really model it quite big enough. So you could hide it with lighting or with depth of field, kind of blurring it out back there, either in camera or rendering out a depth pass to take into After Effects. Anyway, you get the idea. So there it is. Sorry that I didn't have audio the first time around, but this took 10 minutes rather than 20, so maybe I should always do this. Okay, thanks.